Good morning, Tulip friends. Welcome back to the Tulip Chocolate webinar. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Stephen Chuang, and I'm the host of today's webinar. I'm very excited to be the webinar host for our business webinar series, Food Business Instagram Marketing: How to Increase Engagement and Sales. If you haven't already, please follow our Tulip Asia Instagram account and Tulip Asia Facebook page, where we will be posting a host of exciting videos and recipe content aimed to make you into a better baker and skilled chocolate user. On the screen, you'll see the QR. Simply use the camera on your phone to aim at the QR code and click on the link. Alternatively, visit our social media links. Today's webinar is presented by Mr. Arthur. Yep. He heads the marketing of Tulip Chocolate with over 11 years of experience in digital and social media marketing. He has worked on international brands as well as small to medium-sized companies in Europe and Asia. He has also helped to digitize a chain of cake shops using digital marketing and e-commerce. Now, before we continue, just a few housekeeping rules for this webinar. If we have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box. I'll bring up all the questions during the Q&A session at the end. Additionally, we'll also share a survey about this webinar satisfaction that you can fill out during the webinar or at the end. Please do share your thoughts about what we presented today and also give suggestions on future webinar topics that you'd like to see. This is also there will also be a poll popping up on the screen where we will share the results at the end. Finally, we will randomly select 5 attendees who filled out the survey. Stay to one free 45-minute. The consists of Arfit analyzing your Instagram account and provide specific suggestions and advice about how to market your food business. During this session, you can also ask him any questions that you may have regarding Instagram marketing. We will announce the winners in our follow-up email after this webinar. So make sure you stay till the end of the webinar and fill out the survey and we will be sending it through to the chat box. So today, we will talk about the topic, food business Instagram marketing, how to increase engagement and sales. We chose this topic as part of our business series because we found that many food service businesses are using Instagram to market their restaurants, bakeries, hotels, and cafe business. So throughout this webinar, we'll be sharing with you a few ways that you can make Instagram gain more engagement and get it seen by more people. We will also share tips and tricks on the use of Instagram to get more customers and keep them coming back. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Arfit. Mr. Arfit, the room is yours.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. I'm really happy to be here and present this. Usually I'm on the other side asking questions to the chefs, but today I will be presenting a webinar about Instagram. Now, first of all, we've created these business series of various webinar topics because we found that we don't, as a company, as a chocolate manufacturing company, we don't only want to provide product, but we also want to help people grow their business, right? And right now, being online is one of the ways that you can grow your business, you can grow your following, and reach more potential customers online, right? Especially with the pandemic that's happening right now, online is sort of one of the major channels that you can use to reach your current customers as well as your potential customers. So today, I'm going to be focusing mainly on Instagram, and I'll go into a few details on why we chose Instagram a little later. But it seems that a lot of food service businesses currently using Instagram because it is a platform that's actually, it can be quite effective when it comes to growing a community of potential customers and also growing awareness, which will in the end lead to sales. So I'll be honest, it's been it's been actually a while since I last did a webinar presentation, so bear with me here. But let's have fun today. Please do ask questions, and we will have a Q&A session at the end of this. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want. We'll be happy to answer them. So let's get started. So Instagram marketing for food service businesses, how to increase engagement and sales. So the agenda for today is basically we're going to start with, what is Instagram and how it can help your food service business, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual Instagram algorithm. I'll explain what an algorithm is and how understanding how the algorithm works will help you to increase engagement. And then we'll go into some tips that you can use to increase engagement and sales for your food service business. And then later at the end, we'll also focus on a few sales tactics that you can use during the pandemic right now. So a little bit about me, right? So who am I? Who am I to talk about social media? So I'm basically from, I'm actually from Holland, but whenever I say that, people don't believe me because obviously I look Asian, but that's because my mother is from Indonesia and my father is from Holland. So I grew up in Europe and I started my digital marketing career there in Holland, in Amsterdam and London. And I moved to Asia around 2014, and I ended up working with large brands such as L'Oreal, BMW, Barbie, Fisher-Price, a lot of mom brands, as well as cosmetics. And there I was basically in charge of creating social media strategies for these brands. And this was a good, 7 years ago. But actually I started my career mainly in digital marketing for small to medium-sized businesses, right? And how these small businesses can find customers online. And later on, I actually ended up working for a chain of cake shops here in Indonesia, and basically I helped digitize their business and also increase online sales through e-commerce, but also digital marketing. And just one little thing about me is that I'm totally obsessed with food. I'm a huge foodie. I love to cook. And so when I got the chance to join Tulip Chocolate, I thought that was a marriage made in heaven. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I've also done a few startup businesses and that has been featured on magazines and in the press. And now I'm happy to use all of my experience over the last 10+ years to share with you on how you can use digital marketing to get business growth as well as build your online community. So first up, why should we be even considering using Instagram? So the first point is, yeah, it's a cost-effective strategy, right, to build a community. And but why build a community at all, right? And a community is basically a group of people who are interested in the same thing, right, or who share a common value. Right? And when it comes to a community for your food service business, these are all potential customers for you. And I say here cost-effective strategy, and mainly I put it like that because a lot of people think that social media is free. While technically, yes, it is free. It is free to create an account, but to maintain the account will take some time, effort, or if you're a larger business, you will need to hire somebody to maintain your social media accounts and grow that community and direct them to sales. So it's not entirely free because obviously there is some cost involved to maintain. But the beauty of Instagram, it has seen steady growth, right? So Instagram is owned by Facebook. And right now, in terms of global Instagram users, is over 1 billion, right? And it's predicted to go to 1.2 billion in the next few years. So the thing is that Instagram users has seen a steady growth, right, of actual users globally. And the good thing is that a lot of the users are diners and food buyers. And Instagrammers are shoppers, and I don't know if you know this, but here in Indonesia, and as well as a few other Asian countries, that Instagram is it's almost like a shopping platform or a discovery platform. If you look at Instagram in Holland, where I'm from, people don't really shop there when it comes to Instagram. They usually just go to Instagram to have fun, to get educated, to be entertained. But here in Asia, I find that a lot of Instagram users are there to shop, to buy things. So that's a good thing for you as a food business. And another plus point is that more than 1 billion posts are about food and drink related, right? So Instagrammers are basically foodies. So naturally, this is an unofficial food discovery platform for you. So you should really, if you're not on there, you should definitely consider being on there as of now. And here in the graph, in the image, you can see that in terms of the age range, you have a large age group between 18 and 34, and a growing age group that is between 35 and 44. And expect this to increase even more in the next couple of years. So basically, if you're targeting anyone between 18 to 44, which is most likely almost any food business, then you'll want to be on this platform. So before I get started into the juicy tips and everything, I actually want to just explain a little bit about what is Instagram, right? What is it? How should you use it? And the way I like to describe it is Instagram is kind of like a combination of having your own TV channel, being a window shopping format for your business, and also being able to have a dialogue, right? So a dialogue meaning having two-way communications. And if you look at a lot of traditional advertising and marketing methods, like let's say billboards and radio advertising, TV advertising, that's all one-way communication. But social media, and not only Instagram, but most social medias, you can actually have a conversation with people. And that is the revolutionary difference between social media and traditional advertising methods. Okay, so remember these three things. It's like having your own TV channel. Instagram is kind of like window shopping for users, and it's about having a dialogue, right? So remember these three things because I'm gonna come back to them throughout the tips that I'll provide in this presentation. So just a little bit, most of you will probably already know this, but for those who don't, I just want to briefly explain about how Instagram, when you look at your Instagram account, what does everything mean, right? So if you look here at this little picture here, this is your profile picture, but this is also where you have something called IG stories. And I'll go into more detail in terms of what IG stories are and how you can use them. And then you notice here, this is your bio information. Your bio information is basically like a little bit of a description on who you are. And then Instagram allows you to give one URL link to an external website, right? You can add your address, you can add direct messages, contacts. So contacts are basically ways that users can use can contact your business. So it could be through a phone call, sending an email. And then here, we have story highlights. These are potential marketing opportunities for you, and I'll go more into that in greater detail later. And this is what most people see, right? This is what we call your feed, right? Your feed is basically where you post the majority of your Instagram content. And then here, this is a recently added feature. This is Instagram Shop, right? And this is where if you have e-commerce or are selling things online, you can actually connect your Instagram to that as well. Instagram also allows you to send direct messages. And a direct messages, or sometimes what we refer to as a DM, is basically a private messaging feature, right? So this is a message that only that individual user can see. And then there's hashtags. So when it comes to hashtags, hashtags are what keywords are for Google. So if you use Google, obviously you're using keywords to type in and to find content, right, that you're looking for. Now, hashtags are the same. Hashtags are what keywords are for Google. Hashtags are for Instagram, right? And how it's a way of how Instagram organizes content on their platform, right? So naturally, if you're a bakery and you have let's say you have a chocolate croissant, right? So chocolate croissant is a way that Instagram identifies your piece of content through a particular word category. Okay, so One more thing before we get started is that I just want to go over a few glossary of Instagram terms, right? So I'm going to use some of these terms throughout the presentation, and I just want to make sure that you understand, what I'm talking about. So IG, we usually it's just short for Instagram. I also refer to organic reach. Organic reach is basically, if you compare TV advertising, for example, one of the ways that is that is that the TV advertising, how it measures the effectiveness is to see how many eyeballs are watching a TV ad, for example. So how many people see the ad? Now, organic reach is kind of like that. How many people actually see your content? But the term organic basically means that how many people see your content without you having to pay for digital advertising, right? Now, don't worry, I will explain what kind of digital advertising opportunities there are in Instagram. But basically, organic reach just means free traffic, right? Organic traffic, or just from posting without paying for advertising. Okay, and then the feed. The feed basically refers to your main Instagram profile page, but also it can be the feed where you discover new content. But usually we refer it to as where you post your pictures and your videos. So here, your feed is this bit here, where we basically call these post tiles. So tile one, tile two, tile three. And then finally, I'll also refer to analytics. And analytics is basically metrics, and it's measurements that you can see to see how your Instagram posts are performing. Because obviously you want to know whether your individual posts are performing well, whether they're being viewed by a lot of people, and more importantly, you also want to see where are your followers coming from, right? And what is your follower growth like? So that is what analytics is. So first up, I want to explain a little bit about the actual algorithm, right? And when it comes to an algorithm, the algorithm is basically a set of rules that decides which content gets seen. It basically determines what content to show to users based on their interests and behavior. So if you're on Instagram, you may have noticed that if you've been engaging with a lot of cute puppy dog content, you may have noticed that you see a lot of cute puppy dog content in your feed, right? And that is the algorithm at work, right? So it basically, the point of the algorithm is basically to show you relevant content, right, based on your Instagram behavior. Now in the middle here, important engagement factors that the algorithm takes into consideration. So whenever you comment on something, or when you like or share a piece of content, or when you save, or when you watch a video, that is an indicator to the algorithm on your particular behavior, right? And so it will take all these little engagement points into account, and then Instagram will serve you content that's most relevant to what your interests are, right? So it takes your overall behavior into consideration, and it will also take into consideration who you follow. So if you follow a lot of bakery accounts, you probably will notice a lot of bakery type products in your feed. And if you follow a lot of cute puppy dog content, then you'll probably also see a lot of cute puppy dog content, right? Like you see on, that's what I see in my Instagram account, because I have a cute puppy dog. So at the end of the day, Instagram wants to show the most relevant and engaging content in your feed, right? And obviously, Instagram wants to do that because they want you to keep using their app, right? They want you to keep coming back and use their app. And they can only do that if they continue maintaining the interest of the actual user. And how do they do that? By serving you relevant content based on their behavior and their interest. So that's how the algorithm works, right? So now that we understand this, we can go into the actual tips. So this is the real meat, the real juicy part, right, of this webinar. So I'm going to cover essentially 11 tips to increase, your Instagram engagement, and they're going to, you'll see that they're going to vary. It's not only about posting content. I'm going to go a little bit deeper in terms of what you can do to build real human and emotional connections. So the first few tips we have is that you need to create a clear bio. Now, I often see a lot of accounts when they write their bio, there's just not a lot of information out there, right? Or not a lot of information that they provide as a food service business. Now you can see here, this one is legal seafood. Now they don't have a lot of content here, but they do have a branded hashtag and also a link tree link, and I'll explain what that is a little later. But here you see an actual cake bakery from the UK, and they have a little description in terms of who they are, what they do. They're basically a cake company. They also show here that they're in Chelsea. So by the way, this is in the UK, right, in London. So Chelsea and Belgravia are areas. So they show that they have several outlets, and then they have a link to their main website. And on their website, you can also make online orders. So that's very informative, right? And that is useful for a potential customer. Red Lobster from the US. Red Lobster is quite a big brand, right, when it comes to seafood in the US. So they can get away with having a small bio because they have huge brand awareness and brand equity. But what I like about them is that they have a branded hashtag Red Lobster, and also a link to their site. And then this is more closer to home in Singapore. This is actually my favorite cake shop in Singapore. And every time I go to Singapore, I visit this particular cake shop. And here you can see that they provide their email, their address, their phone number, and even their WhatsApp number, right? Because this is particular information that is useful for a potential customer to know, right, to see. On the right here, I have a few suggestions on how you can spruce up your bio. And the first thing is that you should always, if you are a business account, and you should always make sure that if you are on Instagram and if you are an operating business, you should always make sure to transfer. Don't use a regular Instagram account, change to a business account, right? There's a lot of benefits to having one. And one of them is that you can have a contact button, and the contact button is basically a button that allows people to contact you, right? And they can contact you via call, so via phone. They can contact you via email and various other methods. Another thing that I find sometimes that are missing with food service businesses, such as restaurants, bakeries, cafes, is that they don't mention their opening times, right? And especially now in the pandemic, right? Opening times may vary, right? So that's useful information to put there. If you have a website address or perhaps an e-commerce store, then I would include that link, that address in the bio. If you have multiple outlets, then I would definitely include those outlet locations so that people know where to find you. And then if you have a brand hashtag, that is also something you want to include. So basically, a brand hashtag is something that whenever someone posts a picture, let's say they come to your restaurant or your bakery and they take a picture of one of your items, that they know to use your brand hashtag, tag you. And then another useful bit of information is if you have any current promotions or campaigns that you're running, then you want to make sure that you have that detail in the bio. Yeah. So another one, this is a tip that I know some people may think, wow, this is obvious, right? I need to be consistent in posting, and I also need to have a consistent brand colors and a visual identification. So obviously, yeah, Instagram is very visual, right? So you need to make it visually interesting. And what I find is that people who choose a color palette, it helps when it comes to branding. So if you look at these two examples here, you can definitely see in this cake business, the color palette is sort of a white, light gray palette, and it really helps to stand out. And it helps to build attraction towards your account. And then here, this is my favorite cake shop in Singapore. You can see they have sort of a whimsical theme, very colorful colors in their posts. And whenever I see them, I can identify, I know that that's a Cake Spade post or Cake Spade product. Now you'll see that I actually use a lot of cake examples because I used to run a cake shop myself. And so, and also I love cake, and my wife is also an Instagram cake seller. So naturally I have a lot of cake examples. And then so the third point here is that the more regular that you post content, the more chances you have to show up on your followers' feed. And it's also more chance that the algorithm can see how people engage with your content, right? So if you only have a small amount of content, then it's harder for Instagram and the algorithm to figure out who is your content suitable for, right? So therefore, regular posting is very important. Now, I don't mean that you need to post 10 posts a day, right? Or even 5 posts. But I mean just doing regular posting either once every day or 3 times every week or whatnot, but keeping that um, regular schedule. And again, later in the analytics section, you'll be able to see through regular posting which content performs the best, right? Now, when I say content that performs the best, um, when something performs really well, it basically means that there's high engagement. And when there's high engagement, it means that a lot of users actually like your content, right? So remember the TV channel analogy that I used earlier. If you have a TV channel, you want to make sure that people keep watching your shows, right? And Instagram is like that too. You want to make sure that your content gets people to come back and engage with your content, right? So the more they engage, the more that the algorithm will say, hey, this is a really good piece of content. I need to show this piece of content to more people, right? And especially more of your followers. The third part is conversations. Now, I see this is one of those things that I find is not as easy to do, right? And because when you think about Instagram, and a lot of businesses think this as well, is that okay, Instagram they see it more as an advertising marketing channel, right? Very one-way communication. But remember, Instagram is also about having a dialogue, right? And the algorithm actually really likes it when you have conversations going on. Let's say you posted a picture or a video, and when there's a lot of comments, and especially when the brand responds to those comments, Instagram will then say, hey, that's a very important piece of content. I need to maximize the exposure of that piece of content and make it visible to more people. Right? So what you have to remember, Instagram was not designed actually for businesses, right? And I know that a lot of food service businesses, and I've been there myself, we want to just communicate our promotions, right? And promote new products. But Instagram was designed for dialogue, for people to converse with each other, right? So the more you spend time having conversations with your audience, the more visibility that Instagram will give you. Right? Another few things is that Instagram also tracks how you use your DMs, your direct messaging, right? So they track. So when it comes to a direct message, remember a direct message is a specific message that you send to one user only, right? And you have the option of sending a text message. You can send a video message, but you can also send a voice message. And Instagram also tracks and monitors how you use your direct messaging. And so if you happen to have a lot of direct messaging conversations with particular users that are following you, then those users will also see your particular Instagram brand show up more in their feed. And just a little fun fact here is that there's a lot of bots nowadays, right, that send automatic text messages and even automatic video messages. And Instagram doesn't like bots, right? And so, but they like voice messages. And I see a lot of brands, and not only food service brands, but large brands as well, they don't really utilize the voice message enough. The voice message is basically where you can send a voice audio recording to whoever it is that is messaging you, right? So let's say, for example, if someone had sent your food business a question about the ingredients of of one of your bakery products, for example, you can send a voice message to answer them, right? And the beauty of a voice message is that it's very personal, right? Imagine if you're a large brand and you get a voice message from a brand, a personal voice message to you, I would feel quite honored, right? And by doing this, Instagram will also reward you by making your account more visible in their feed as well. So consider that, right? Think about what conversations you can have. And when it comes to thinking about a strategy or a plan of approach, obviously how a lot of brands start is like, okay, what kind of pictures should I create? What kind of videos should I make, right, for my business? But you could also start with, what kind of conversations do I want to have with my users? Because remember, conversations means if you have a lot of conversations, you get more what I like to call airtime, right? Or airtime is basically where the algorithm identifies that this post is having a lot of comments. Therefore, I need to show this piece of content to more people, right? So think about what kind of conversations do I want to have with my potential customers. And you also want to encourage conversations, right? Because I see one of my pet peeves of larger brands or any brand really is that when people ask questions, I hate it when a brand doesn't answer, right? And the reason why I hate that is because would you like it if a customer came into your store, they asked you a question, and then you ignore them? No, right? You wouldn't, right? You wouldn't do that if someone came into your store. So then you shouldn't do that when someone comes onto your Instagram. They've taken the time to find your account, leave you a question, and then you don't answer them, right? You have to see Instagram as an extension of your customer service, right? So you always need to reply comments. And the beauty when you reply comments, then again, the algorithm will see that there's a conversation happening here and will show your content to more people. In Tulip Chocolate, I know this isn't exactly a cafe or restaurant or Horeca type business, but we like to do that too, right? We like to answer a lot of questions, or especially when it comes to what our customers are struggling with, right? We like to answer the questions right there in our Instagram posts, right? And you can see here that the comments here, 73 comments, and you also see that there's a lot of views, right? So this means that Instagram has seen this piece of content as quite important. And so it has showed it to more potential users who also like this particular content. If you look on the content on the right, this is about making a chocolate ganache. And we invited people to ask questions. Hey, what are your problems? You know, when it comes to creating a ganache, where are you struggling with? And so they ask questions, and then we help answer those questions within the actual post itself. And so by doing that, you gain a lot of interest in that post, and then Instagram will show it to more followers, and then we get more engagement, right? And more engagement means that more people see your piece of content, but they also see your brand, right? So that's kind of like the traditional advertising that I mentioned before. TV, you know, they care about how many people see the ad. Radio cares about how many listeners listen to the ad. And here in Instagram, the more engagement you get, the more people, the more organic reach you also get, more eyeballs you get to your post and to your brand. Another thing you can do is really to ask people to tag people who will find this post useful, right? So let's say, for example, in this chocolate ganache image, this is where we can ask people, hey, if you know someone that is also struggling with chocolate ganache, make sure to tag them to this post because it will be helpful for them as well. So again, we're asking the community to share for us, right? So, and don't be afraid to ask people to share. Okay, so I'm gonna go, the next part is I'm gonna go over a few Instagram features, and particularly the IG stories here. I'll explain what that is. I'll explain a little bit about contacts. I mentioned earlier that contact, this is how a user can contact your business. And so that could be via a call or email. And you can also, Instagram now has a shop or Instagram shopping. So if you sell things on an e-commerce store like Shopify or WooCommerce, if you sell anything on those platforms, you can actually connect your Instagram to those e-commerce platforms so that it can assist your sales. Now, I do want to say that if you are a business, it is best to make a business account, right? Don't use the regular account because you have access to more benefits, right? You can get more, you can get access to IG insights, and you can also do a few more nifty little features that I'll cover in the following slides. IG story highlights. So this again, I'll go over what this is, but these are things that you'll need to use to maintain engagement and provide relevant content. Right? And then also I'll go over hashtags. I have a little hashtag strategy that has worked for me. I've actually used this hashtag strategy since, a good 6 years ago, I think, and it still works today. So we're starting off with hashtags. Okay, so remember, right? Hashtags are like what keywords are for Google. That's what hashtags are for Instagram, right? It's a way for you to get discovered, right, through relevant keywords. Now, Instagram allows you to post up to or a maximum of 30 hashtags, right? And one of the biggest hashtag mistakes I see is that people either don't use enough hashtags or they use hashtags that have millions of posts, right? And that's where the trick lies, right? You don't want to use hashtags that have 10 million posts or 100 million posts. Because I know a lot of business may think that, okay, but if I use the hashtag that has 100 million users, 100 million posts, then I'm going to expose my content to all those people, right? Well, wrong. Actually, that's not how it works, right? And I'm actually going to go out of my presentation for a second, and I want to show an example. So here we have the hashtag chocolate. So, being Tulip chocolate, you would think that hashtag chocolate is a relevant keyword for us. But actually it's not, right? Because if you see here, there's almost 10 million posts, right? 10 million posts using that hashtag. And this means that is just too large of a number. And I'm going to show you here a very quick example. So remember this picture here, right? It's kind of like an Oreo looking cake. So I'm going to refresh right now. And then you'll see that Oreo cake is no longer there, right? It's nowhere to be seen. And that is because when you're using a hashtag that has almost 100 million posts, every second there's probably like 20 to 50 posts being posted online using that same hashtag. So that means that Oreo cake that used to be here doesn't really get a lot of airtime. It doesn't really get a lot of visibility because there's too much competition, right? Too much competition of that particular hashtag means it gets less visibility. So let's do it one more time. So remember this image here. Let's refresh. And that image is probably now gone. All right, so let's go to the bottom. Yep, and the image is gone. Let's scroll to the bottom. See, see? So in that 1 second that I refresh, there's already been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces of content in that 1 second, right? And that's the problem. That's the main problem of using a hashtag that has so many millions of posts. Right? So let me just go back to my presentation. So the trick is when you choose your hashtags, find hashtags that are between 5,000 and I would put a max of 750,000 posts, right? And the reason why this number is because within this range of posts, you have more chance of your actual content to be visible, right? Because there are not many people using that hashtag, and also it will appeal to a more target audience, right? So I would not use hashtags that are over 1 million posts, right? Because your post will just never be seen. Always use, I usually say 25 to 30, but yeah, use the max amount of hashtags that you can, but don't post the hashtag in your actual post caption, right? You want to make sure that you put the hashtag in the comment section right after you posted the image. Now, the reason why you want to do that is because you don't want these 30 hashtags cluttering up your caption, right? You want people to focus on your caption, like to be laser focused, right? And not look at all the hashtags. And that's why we always put the hashtags in the comments so it doesn't bother the main caption. So here's the real meat of the strategy. There are essentially 2 to 3 types of hashtags that you need to find. So you do need to spend a little bit of time researching the hashtags. When I joined Tulip, we also spend at least 2 to 3 hours researching relevant hashtags for us. And trust me, this does work. So the first kind of hashtag that you want to make is you want to find hashtags that describe your business or your ideal customer, right? So for example, if you are a cake shop, then cake shop could be a relevant hashtag. But again, you have to see how many posts or how many people actually use that hashtag. So what you can do to narrow it down some more is like, say, cake shop Manila, for example, right? Or cake shop Cebu, or cake shop Jakarta, or Cake Shop South Jakarta, right? You add a geographic location to that hashtag to make it a bit more specific, right? So find 13 different hashtags that describe your business or your ideal customer. So for example, an ideal customer, they may use a hashtag, let's use the cake shop example, cake lover, right? Or addicted to cake. They may use those kind of hashtags to describe themselves, right? And so you want to make sure that you're using those hashtags because those are hashtags that they regularly use. So that way you can be discoverable on the hashtags that your customers use. And again, bringing in more followers to you and also getting potential sales in the end. The second type of hashtags that you should research is hashtags that your customers would search for, right? So for example, the cake shop again, you don't want to target everyone, right? You want to particularly look for people who love cake, right? Now, obviously, you're probably going to have different kinds of flavors. Okay, so for example, vanilla cake or chocolate cake. You want to look at specific sort of products that your customers may use as a hashtag or as a keyword, right? And so, for example, myself, I particularly like buttercream cakes, right? So I always look for buttercream cake hashtags, right? And so yes, this does take a little bit of research, but I promise you, this little bit of time that you spend to research your hashtags will make all the difference, right? Because often I find that when people add hashtags to their posts, they either use hashtags that have millions of users, or they're just not targeted enough, right? And this is where you have to spend a little bit of time, a couple of hours, just to find out what are relevant hashtags. And if you don't know where to find those hashtags, then go to find some of your original your customers online and look at what kind of posts they're posting and see what kind of hashtags that they're using, right? Another way is that you can also go to your competitors. You can go to your competitors in Instagram account, see what hashtags that they're using to describe their business, right? And then you can see which ones are relevant to you. And then finally, use 5 hashtags that describe, what's in the image or what's in if you have a campaign or a trending hashtag or a brand hashtag, that you want to make sure that you include that as well. The thing is that, do not use the same hashtags over and over again. You want to make sure that if you do end up using 30 hashtags, don't use the same 30 over and over again, because that is one way to get shadow banned. And a shadow ban is a light penalty that Instagram gives account holders if you are using spammy behavior, right? So make sure that you mix up your hashtags from time to time. Okay. So here's a quick strategy. What I found is some restaurants actually use the strategies that they add hashtags to their actual product names and dishes, right? And so you can add, when you go into a restaurant and you look at the menu, but there's no pictures. Well, for me personally, I like to see pictures before I order something, right? And so you can give each of your menu items an actual specific hashtag. Now, obviously, if you have a chocolate cake on your menu, don't name it chocolate cake, because most likely there's just too many posts using that, or too many users using the same hashtag. But you can use your brand name as well as the product hashtag, right, to just narrow it down, so that people can look at Instagram and see, hey, what do your dishes look like? Or what do your menu items look like? And then that visual connection will help to make a purchasing decision. So that's something you can do. A little bit about IG stories. Okay, so next up we have IG stories. Basically, these are pictures or videos that last in your stories section for only 24 hours, right? You can add a lot of elements such as locations, stickers, animated GIFs. You can add hashtags, you can ask questions, and you can really make it interactive, right? And the benefits is that IG Stories helps give you more visibility, right? So we also use a lot of IG Stories to promote our posts, just to get extra visibility there. You also have IGTV, and IGTV basically allows you to upload videos that are longer than 1 minute. And why you may want to consider that is that most people put their videos on YouTube, but now you can also put it on IGTV. It's basically an extra additional channel that can use to promote your video content. And then you also have IG Live. So IG Live is basically a live video session where you can engage with your followers. So perhaps if you have a recipe creation or recipe demonstration, you can show it live through your IG Live feature. Here are just some examples, right? So when it comes to IG stories, you can have like a polling and Q&A features. You can add effects, and you can also use GIF animations. A few Instagram story ideas. So, you can teach, or as a food business, you can also show a demo or show how one of your recipes or one of your popular dishes are being made. This is just an example of Dunkin' Donuts showing how to make stencils on a donut, right? So it shows the literal steps on how to do this. Another Instagram story idea is to provide rewards, right? So if you see here, if people watch the Instagram story all the way to the end, they can see that there's a promotional code here that they can use. So this is quite a nice way to provide some kind of incentive, but also to make sure that people watch your IG stories all the way till the end. Here again, there's just some different slider options again, right? So this is more of an interaction. You can also have polls, and you can use these types of engagement ideas to engage with your audience, right? And gain also customer intelligence, right? About what they like and what they don't like. Okay, so this is the swipe up feature, right? And basically the swipe up basically means that you can add a link to your IG stories. And that link can direct to your website, it can direct to your e-commerce, your blog, or your shop, right? Now, you can only add a link if you have at least 10,000 followers, right? So that's important to note. So you must get those followers first and until Instagram opens up the swipe up feature. But what should you do if you don't have the link, the swipe up feature? I found an example here of how you can you can still provide a link, but let's say you create a story here, and if anyone who wants to, let's say you're doing a promotion, right? A voucher or something like that. If people want the link, you just ask them to react with some kind of emoji. And in this example, it's a clapping emoji. So if people react with that emoji, basically you will get a direct message with the clap emoji, and then you will know to send them the link via the direct message. So that's one way you can work around sending links. Okay, so when it comes to Instagram story highlights, what do you want to put in there? Right? So one thing I would definitely recommend is always put your menu. I'm still so surprised that I see a lot of restaurants and bakeries and cafes, they don't put their menu in there, right? And make it convenient for your customers to find your products, right? And make it even more convenient to order online, right? Explain to them, if you have a marketplace or an e-commerce store, show them how easy it is to order online and get their food delivered, right? You can also show your special seasonal or special menu items. Right now, one thing that's quite popular is what measures are you taking that show that you have taken against COVID, right? You want to make sure that you are reassuring your potential customers and also your current customers that you have measurements in place to combat COVID. Right? And then obviously also include promotions in your story highlights. Now, I mentioned earlier that Instagram only allows you to include one link, right? And but if you look at the Tulip account, we use something called Linktree, and it allows us to put multiple links here, right? So you can put a link, let's say if you have a shop on Shopee or Tokopedia or Food Panda, you can link to that here. Or maybe you can put a link to your blog or a link to your website, right? Or a link to your e-commerce, right? So you can add multiple links using Linktree. I included a few other apps like Dreamland and Milkshake. Now these are apps for if you want to have more design control, if you want to make it more visually impressive, then I would recommend you use Dreamland or Milkshake. Now, this one, make a human connection. Yes, so what does that mean, right? So the thing is that Instagram is a dialogue, right? And it allows you to have conversations. So one of the things is that you should be telling stories about what makes your shop different, right, from another cake shop or another bakery or another restaurant. Make human connections through showing who your staff are, right? let's say if you have a hotshot chef or a pastry chef in your food establishment, then that's also one way you can show that who are the people behind creating all your food items. Perhaps you have a unique cooking method that you'd like to show. Now, cooking method is like a huge trend right now. If you notice on Pinterest, on IG, even on YouTube, people love to watch how things are made, right? So you don't have to give away your whole recipe, but I mean, you can at least show how it's made, and there's a human sort of satisfaction element to showing or watching videos of how food is being made right in the kitchen. Another thing that we like to do is we like to make connections with where people are struggling, right? So we often ask questions, or we have a IG stories that ask questions about, for example, cookie baking. You know, what are your problems there, and let us help you solve those problems, right? Share stories about your business, perhaps share some customer stories, right? Maybe feature a regular customer that's coming to your business regularly for the last 5 years. And of course, a story wouldn't be a story without any emotional stories, right? If you support a charity, or do you have an employee that's been with you for a long time, those are potential stories that you can feature in your Instagram account. Now, a lot of people always ask me, hey, why should we do storytelling? Why care about that? Well, the thing is that our brains are actually wired to enjoy and be captivated by storytelling. If you think about in the olden days when we were living in caves and we had big fires and we would huddle around the fire, the first kind of history was through storytelling. So our brains are naturally wired to really enjoy storytelling type of content. Now, this is my favorite example, Humans of New York. You know, they have over 11 million followers, and all they do is take pictures of people and they share some of their personal stories. And as you can see, there's hundreds and thousands of likes because people like to consume stories. Okay, so what you should be asking is like, what stories can you tell about your business that will make that human connection, right? And that's the beauty of Instagram, right? And any social media really, compared to TV advertising or radio advertising, which is more one-way communication. Here on Instagram, you can have two-way communication and really make a connection with people. If you make that connection, they will stay more loyal, and they will stay on top of mind. You can also use user-generated content. This is basically where you are using content that your customers are taking. So this is just some examples of Tulip. These are customers who have used our product when it comes to creating their own dessert, right? So user-generated content, it's kind of like word-of-mouth marketing. And word-of-mouth marketing is often the best kind of marketing, right? So encourage that. Encourage people to share photos and pictures and videos of your, when they're at your establishment or consuming your food. You can another good user-generated content is reviews, testimonials, right? And you can also, of course, repost some of their content, but obviously you have to ask their permission for that. Okay, so promotion and giveaways, that's another one. But here's the thing, when it comes to giveaways, try and relate the giveaway back to your business, right? So for example, in this example here, you see you can win a 3-course dinner. So it's related to your business, right? And then here again, there's a food giveaway for a sushi restaurant, and again, it comes back to your business. Now, I see some businesses giving away iPhones, right? The latest iPhone 12. Don't do this if you're a food service business, right? Because what you will do is attract a lot of deal hunters, and people that are not really interested in your business at all. Okay. Provide value. So what does value look like for a food service business? You can either educate, entertain, or inspire. And so what you can do is share some of that expertise with your audience, show how your dishes are made, highlight ingredients that you use in your recipes, and perhaps even a behind-the-scenes tour of your actual establishment. Remember, this is window shopping, right? So give them a little bit of a taste of what it's like to dine in your place, or what it's like to consume some of the products that your food service makes. So this is just things of what not to do, right? So don't post too many promotions. Remember, Instagram is not only an advertising channel. Have conversations. not having a personality, and not replying to my message, right? That's a big thing. And so make sure you're having that conversation. So if you're a business account, you can have Instagram analytics. And basically, it allows you to track what posts are doing well, where your users are coming from, how you're growing. You can basically look back between 7 to 30 days, how many clicks you're getting to your websites, and how many people are visiting your IG account, right? So you want to use analytics to see how well your account is performing and how well your content is performing. Right? So always keep an eye on that regularly. And then finally, Instagram advertising, right? This is something, I'm going to go very briefly into this. You have to connect your Facebook to Instagram. And basically, the difference with this kind of advertising is that you get to target your ideal customers. You can, for example, the cake shop, you can target people who love chocolate cake or vanilla cake or fruit cake, right? You can show up in their feed based on their interests and also their geographic location, age, and so yeah, very different from the traditional TV advertising model, which is one way and non-targeted. So the key really is to create irresistible content consistently and engage with your followers, right? If you take anything away today, is take these 2 points away, and you will already notice a huge engagement, which of course will eventually lead to awareness and sales for your business. Okay, then the final part of this presentation is more about a few ideas on what you can do during the pandemic. So the first thing to keep in mind is that you want to make it convenient for your customers to buy from you, right? Through delivery or online ordering platforms, right? And essentially you want to use not only Instagram, but all your other platforms to promote these services. So the first thing that is something called curbside pickup. Now this will only work for establishments or food service establishments that are not in a mall, right? That actually are on the street or outside a mall. So this is a service where people can call ahead in order to pick up at a specifically agreed time, right? So here in the example, you can see that they drive up outside to the sign and get their orders delivered. Have your staff deliver the order outside, right? And basically, customers can avoid crowds and waiting time, right? Because crowds are bad now, right? When it comes to the pandemic. It also allows you to utilize some of the sort of online and cashless payment solutions. And sort of have minimal human contact, right? Add a sign, right, to show where people can pick up. Right? I realize that we're running a little bit over time. I'm gonna need an extra 5 or 8 minutes for this. So another thing is that a trend that we've been seeing is ready to eat and ready to cook meals, right? So more and more people are cooking at home. But a lot of people don't know how to cook necessarily, right? So you want to make it convenient. You want to make these ready-to-eat or frozen meals that they can just put in a pan and heat up at home. And again, you want to make sure that you promote these or that you create content on your Instagram to promote these particular items. Another thing is that, okay, yeah, obviously delivery, right? That's huge nowadays. But let's say if you're a coffee shop or a bakery, you could have a local delivery service within a certain kilometer radius of your coffee shop. So you could give free delivery, right? Let's say within 3 kilometers or 5 kilometers around your shop. And so again, that helps to boost sales and create awareness. And again, you can use your Instagram posts and story highlights to promote this. And you can also really encourage and provide incentives for group orders, right? So that you kill more birds with one stone, right? And also increase your average order value. Here in Indonesia, we have things such as GrabFood and Gojek, which are food delivery platforms. And I think in the Philippines, we have Food Panda. So make sure if you're not on there, you better be on there, right? Because they already have millions of users on their platforms, and those are all potential customers for you. All right, and then Starbucks does it as well, and I see a lot of other coffee shops as well. Try and create products that have larger volumes, right? So either 1 liter or 1.5 liters, things that can be stored in the fridge, right? Because that way your customers don't need to make too many frequent trips outside the house, right? To buy a coffee or to buy, and this could also be ice cream, for example, right? You sell a liter package rather than the individual package as well. So think about promoting some kind of bulk offering, right? And then finally, vouchers and gift cards. Right? Obviously, this is something that you can still retain some of that income and make them valid for at least a year or longer, and still be able to interact through purchasing with your business through these vouchers. So finally, yeah, key points to remember is that, yeah, you want to make sure that you ask yourself what content is relevant and enjoyable for your audience. Right? Now, remember, your analytics will show you what content is performing the best and most enjoyable for your audience. You know, what stories can you tell about your business that builds that human connection, right? Always think about creating dialogue. So if someone leaves a comment or asks a question, excuse me, make sure that you continue the conversation and experiment with your content, and then use the analytics to see which content performs the best. Right? And really just use all of the Instagram features to see what features work best for you, right? And to increase that engagement and interaction with your brand. Right? So remember, Instagram is like having your own TV channel. It's a window into your business where you can have a conversation. So finally, I want to end it here with a quote that I like from one of my favorite marketing gurus called Seth Godin. And he says, "Everyone is not your customer." And I just want to finish this up with a final story about my mother. So my mother used to own a money changer business, and I helped her out with some digital marketing. And when I asked my mom, "Hey, mom, who is your ideal customer?" And her answer to me was, "Well, everyone, right? I mean, everyone who wants to change money, right?" But that's the problem, right? You cannot target everyone. If you want to target the whole world, you need a huge budget. You know, you need millions of dollars to do that. And you want to make sure that as a business, as a food establishment, that you know who your ideal customer is. So the example of the cake shop, you want to make sure that you target people who love cake, right? Or a pastry, people who love pastries, right? Or if you are and again, look at the type of products that they buy from you, and make sure that you target those particular customers. And with my mom's business, once I started asking my mom about, "Hey, mom, who is it that where do you get your most business from?" And then she explained to me, "I actually get the most business from hotels, because hotels have a lot of foreigners in them and who require money changing services." Right? And then once I identified that, I could then create a digital marketing strategy that targets those hotels or establishments that have a lot of tourists in them. And once we did that in digital marketing, that's when we started seeing sales, right? Because we focus on a specific customer. And now I don't mean that you should focus one particular customer, but a specific customer group, right? So when I say when I mentioned the example of the cake shop, you can target a group of people who love cake, right? That's a group of people, right? Or people who love chocolate cake, or people who love vanilla cake, right? Those are groups of people that you can target, right? So just make sure that with your Instagram that you're not targeting the whole world and that you want everyone to come to your Instagram account. That's probably not going to happen, right? So make sure that you're very laser focused on who your customer is and who you want to reach. So that's me. That's the presentation that I have so far, and I have the slide here in case you want to know more about Tulip Chocolate and some of our products. Right, we have our contact details here for international and Indonesia. I'll revert back to this slide a little later, but right now we're going to go into the we're going to go back here and into the Q&A section.
Yeah. Thank you, Arfid.
Hey, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arfid. I mean, for me, it was a great presentation and many tips. And I hope everyone in the call has received a lot of valuable information as well as inspiration for all of you to try and experiment on your business's Instagram account. So now we're going to jump into the Q&A session. I think we have a few questions that.
Oh, I think we lost you there, Stephen. Stephen? Oh, I think we have a little bit of a connection issue here. Let's just see what's going on here. Are you back?
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Here,
Yeah.
sorry. So
Okay.
let me read the question out again.
Yeah, go ahead.
How often? Yeah, how often should you post on Instagram or social media platforms? Are there any specific time where people tend to use their phones more? And what is the advisable number of posts per day?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first part of the question is, yeah, how often should I post, right? Yeah, that's there's unfortunately there's no magical number, but what you need to do is when we started the Tulip Instagram account, we also didn't know how often we should post, right? But we found that when we post around 3 to 5 times a week, we would get the most traction, right? And so basically, what you have to do is you have to keep an eye on your analytics to see. If you, let's say what you can do, you can experiment. For the next 2 weeks, you can post, let's say, 10 times a week, right? And then for the following 2 weeks, you can post, let's say, 5 times a week. And then you compare the analytics and see, do I get more engagement if I post 5 times, or do I get more engagement if I post 10 times, right? So that's something that you have to experiment with to see what is the ideal formula and what works best for your business. And that will also be different for each business, right? Some businesses maybe work well with 10 posts per week, right? So that's something you have to experiment, but you do it by, or even if you want to make the experiment a bit shorter, do 1 week, 10 posts, the other week, 5 posts, something like that. What was the second part of the question? How many posts and the time, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's another thing, right? That's also a thing that there's no magic to it. That's also something you have to experiment. But you can make assumptions, right? So for example, if you're a food service business, you can assume that 9 to 5 they're at the office, right? And so where we generally tend to post in the mornings or after work or during lunchtime. That's when we see a lot of traffic. But again, those are things that you need to try. You need to experiment yourself, right? So for example, in the first week, you can decide to only post in the evenings, right? And then next week you try posting in the mornings. And then you use numbers to see which posts perform best. Yeah, I wish there was a magic number I could tell you, but every business is different, right? And your community is different. Your followers are different, right? They all have different habits and behaviors. So yeah, that's something you have to experiment with.
Thank you, Arvid.
Yeah. Oh, I think you froze again, Steven.
I hope that answers.
Oh, okay, you're back.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, this is technology right now. I mean, we've got to make do with it. Do you have, let me continue the question. Do you have any tips and tricks to make efficient captions for your content? Should it be too informative and long?
Yeah, again, that's a similar answer to my first one, right? This is, again, you have to try it, because again, your followers are different, right? But if you look at the example I showed earlier on with Humans of New York, their captions are long, and sometimes they have 12 posts featuring the same person, right? And works for them, right? And so this is where I would experiment again, right? Use sort of shorter captions, but also what I would focus on as well is to show personality, right? Don't just describe the photo, but try and in your captions always have a call to action. And a call to action is basically where you ask them, what is it that you want them to do, right? Do you want them to share your piece of content? Do you want them to tag a friend, right? Or do you want them to ask a question, right? Or do you want them to make an order, right? Or order online? Make sure that whatever caption you use is that you tell them what action you want them to do next. So again, this is there's no magical answer here. You have to experiment, right, and see does a long caption work better. But again, if you use a long caption, make sure you're telling a story, right, and make sure it's telling something interesting, right. Make it a little bit personal, right, about the business. That's when a long caption will make sense, right. But let's say if it's a promotional post, yeah, then maybe a long caption wouldn't make so much sense there. I would just get to the point. When it's about a promotion, you want to make sure that you focus on the unique selling points. What do they get by being involved with the promotion, right? So again, it just depends on the piece of content you're featuring, right? If you're featuring one of your chefs or one of your recipes or one of the products that you are promoting, then you may want to spend a little bit more time explaining about that content. But again, if it's more about getting the sale or getting them to be involved with a particular campaign or promotion, then make sure you're straight to the point, right? And tell them what you want them to do to get that sale, for example, right?
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Arvid. We have a whole bunch of questions, so we'll jump on to the next one.
Yep.
Is it advisable to separate the brand of our food business and Instagram? Example, we have custom cakes, specifically wedding cakes. Another is for the usual commercial cakes. So I think what they're trying to say is that should they separate? There are two different brands of wedding cakes as well as commercial cakes.
Yeah, you can do, but remember, if you have two separate Instagram accounts, it means double the work also, right? So it depends. Do you have enough staff or do you have enough bandwidth or capability to handle two accounts, right? Yeah, ideally, yes, it would be better to have two accounts. But I remember when I was running the cake shop years ago, we would run it all under one account, and we would basically have a highlight, an IG story highlight that features the customized cakes, for example. So the feed took care of most of the cakes that are being sold to sort of the general public, and then we would have the IG highlights feature the specific customized or wedding cakes, right? Now, of course, you can throw in a couple of posts to educate and make people aware that you have this service. But yeah, it depends on the bandwidth, right? Do you have time to manage two accounts? If not, then just create it and you put it in your content plan, right? So for example, in a week you can decide if you're posting 5 times a week, you can, for example, post 4 times about your general cakes, and then 1 time about your wedding business or your wedding cake or customized cake service. But I would probably do it under one, just to make it a little bit more efficient. And let's say if your normal cake Instagram account has a lot of following, then you can leverage that, right, to also promote your customized cake services there as well.
Thank you for that. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? I think this one question that I think everybody, it may be on a lot of people's minds, and that is, does the hashtags on Facebook work the same as Instagram?
Yeah, it's the same concept. So basically, hashtags on Facebook are also like keywords. It's the way that Facebook uses to organize posts, right? So that people can discover them easier, right? So essentially, they're the same thing, right? It categorizes posts based on the hashtags that you use. Yeah.
Right. Correct. And I think a great follow-up question to this would be, I think you mentioned in your presentation about analytics. So after you check the best should, or so that more people can see it, or should one create similar?
Sorry, Stephen, you froze there. I didn't get that question.
Well, let me ask you the question again. So after we have seen the analytics on the best posts, what should we do? Should we promote that post to more people so that it gains more traction, or should we create more
Okay.
content, similar content?
Yeah. Okay, understood. Yeah, good question. Yeah, one thing I would definitely do is create more similar content, right? Because remember that TV channel analogy, right? In order to get people viewing your TV channel, you need to give them TV shows that they like, right? And so yes, definitely create more content like that. And if you do have a budget for Instagram advertising, then yes, I would. The indicator, the fact that the organic reach is high on those posts, that's also a good indicator to also boost those posts and use digital advertising to increase the reach of that particular post. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Sure.
Understood. I think the next question is very interesting for a lot of people who have been in the business, I think, and it's to do with shadow ban. So
Yeah.
will I be able to avoid shadow ban if I use the same 12 to 13 hashtags for my post? And should I just change it to 5 hashtags that describe
Okay. Yeah.
my
So okay.
company more? Yeah.
Let me just explain. So the shadow ban, what is that exactly, right? So the shadow ban is basically like a light penalty. Now, it doesn't mean that Instagram will ban your account, no. But what it means is that they will decrease the visibility of your posts on social media. Um, and and basically what happens is that they will reduce the reach of your post, or sometimes they will even not allow you to post, right, for a while. And sometimes you see shadow bans lasting up to a few days to 2 weeks, or sometimes even longer than 2 weeks, right? So a shadow ban is not a complete ban of the platform; it's just a light penalty. And usually with shadow bans, it's not really the amount of hashtags that you use; it's about whether you use the same hashtags over and over and over and over again. That's what will get you a shadow ban. So make sure that you add a few additional hashtags to describe what the post is about, right? Um, so that way you always mix up your hashtags. And another way to get shadow banned is if you use banned hashtags. So Instagram has a list of hashtags that you're not allowed to use. And here's a little funny fact is that did you know that the hashtag elevator is actually banned? I have no idea why elevator is banned, but usually hashtags that have to do with sort of like pornography and rude language, vulgar language, right? Those are, if you use those hashtags, that will also get you shadow banned, right? So again, it's not about the number of hashtags you use, it's more about whether you use them over and over again. Another way that will get you shadow banned is if you use bots. And often people use bots to get more followers, or one way to get more followers is to like a lot of pictures automatically, right? So let's say, for example, if you're liking more than 200 pictures in say 2 minutes or something, right? They will see that as spammy behavior, right? That because there's no way that you can really like 200 pictures without really making a human connection, right? And so that kind of spammy behavior will get you on that shadow ban list. So make sure that you don't use those kind of dodgy type bots to get more followers. And also don't use those services that promise you, if you pay $100, you'll get 2,000 new followers, right? Don't use services like that because, well, first of all, those types of services, yes, you may get 2,000 followers, but they're most likely not relevant, right? So if you're a cake shop in Indonesia, you'll get followers from I don't know, from Mongolia or something, or from Egypt, places that are completely irrelevant to your business, right? And so yes, you may get a lot of, when people visit your account, they'll see, wow, you have a lot of followers. But then when they look at your engagement, let's say if you have 100,000 followers, but your engagement of every post is only 10 likes, yeah, then people will know, they probably bought those followers, right? So don't use those kind of dodgy services because the algorithm will detect these kind of behavior, right? Especially if you, for example, in Instagram, you can follow people. So if you follow 1,000 people within 5 minutes, yeah, then obviously no human can do that, right? It's usually a bot. So then that indicates to Instagram, hey, that's a bot, shadow ban them, right? So because they don't want you to use. You can use some bots, but it has to be approved by Instagram. Right? Hope that answers that question. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. We have one question that's with regards to comments.
Yes.
Should you reply all comments that come out that you receive on your platform?
I would, yeah, I would. And even sometimes if it's sometimes you get like an emoji, right? And yeah, what does that actually mean, right? It's not a question, it's not a comment, it's not anything, right? But yeah, you can. I would respond with another emoji, right? Or maybe let's say if they give a thumbs up emoji for a video that you made, try and continue the conversation. So if they gave a thumbs up, then you can say, for example, hey, which part did you like particularly in that video, right? Um, and get them start that conversation, right? So yeah, I would. Now obviously if you get thousands of comments, I don't expect you to do that for all 1,000 comments. If you are in that realm where you're getting thousands of comments, then obviously select the ones where that are a bit more relevant, whether asking a question or actually made a real value comment, right? But if you're only getting a few comments, and yeah, then why not? Yeah, do spend some time commenting on them, right? So, but I would always look for ways to spark that conversation, right? Um, and or for example, when someone gives a generic comment like, "Oh, I really like this video," right? Then you can say, "Okay, which part did you like?" Or what are what are you trying to make? Or what is the biggest problem that you have when it comes to I don't know, baking a cake or something. Let's say the video is about baking a cake. Yeah, ask them, what other problems do you have when it comes to baking a cake, right? And have that conversation. And again, the algorithm will pick that up and be like, this post is valuable.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Have an interaction with your customer, right? And then they'll see that it's organic, and then it will move. And you would get
Yeah,
a higher
exactly.
turnout
But
value from that rather
having
than
that, yeah, it's having that dialogue, right?
exactly.
So this is the difference between social media and traditional advertising, right? Like TV, video, you can't really have a dialogue, right? But now you can.
Yeah.
So you use that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a good question to jump into next would be with regards to hashtags. Why should the hashtags be on the comment section and not on the post itself?
That's more from a visual appeal, because if you have your comments, and then you have these 30 hashtags, listed below, it kind of gets a little bit distracting, and it's more from a visual perspective. I just like to keep it clean, and I learned this trick from another Instagrammer influencer back in the day. Because that way the user is focused purely on the caption of the post and not necessarily the hashtags, right? And basically, yeah, you want to get the message across, and the message comes across in the caption, right, and not in the hashtags, right? So that's where you want the focus to be, in the caption.
Yeah. Understood. I mean, I think the next question everybody would want to know as well, which is regard to the conversions into sales. So how does how does social media engagement translate to product sales?
Yeah, so yeah, that's also a great question, right? So okay, there's two parts to this question, right? So if you have Instagram shopping and connected to some kind of e-commerce platform, then you can measure your sales, right? Because we had this in the cake business I was running before. We actually had Instagram shopping connected to our e-commerce platform. Now we used a different system for e-commerce, something called Shopify, and we could measure how many people clicked on the posts and how much traffic was then being delivered to our e-commerce site. And then as a result of that traffic, how many people were buying. So I could see which posts were generating the most sales, right? On which content types were promoting the sales. Now, if you don't have that, yeah, then there's no way to measure that, right? So this is what you have to see Instagram as, is that Instagram is is a place where you also gain awareness, right? You find new potential customers for your brand, right? And if you don't have some kind of online way to measure that, yeah, that's very hard to get sales. But maybe other things that you can measure is how many people ended up calling my business, right, through the contact button, or how many emails did I receive, right? And then you can sort of track with your team, okay, out of those 20 emails that I received, how many ended up being a sale, right? So there's a bit of manual work there, but it's doable, right? And out of the calls, right, that you receive, how many people actually close, right? That's where you speak to your customer service team and ask them, right? Out of all these calls, how many did you close, right, into an actual sale? There's a bit of manual process work there, but Instagram is also a discovery platform, right? So if you look at what we call in marketing, the marketing funnel, you have basically sort of 3 stages. At the bottom of the funnel, that's when people are purchasing. In the middle of the funnel, that's when people are considering. But at the top of the funnel, that's where people are aware of your brand, right? And Instagram works really well when it comes to awareness, finding new potential customers, right? Yeah. And so marketing is not only about direct going to sales, it's also about, it's kind of like fishing, right? And you want to make sure that you hook some of this fish, get them to follow you on your account, so that at least now that they're following you or they are in your sphere of influence, you now have the ability to market to them, right? And then it's up to you to create interesting content that keeps them hooked, like like your favorite soap opera TV show. And eventually also, you put in a few promotional content posts and see how many of those promotional posts actually convert to a sale. Mm. So yeah, Instagram is not only about selling, right? It is also about engaging, right? But there will always be a portion of your followers that will always be ready to buy, right? And that's wonderful. But if you look at the funnel is very narrow at the bottom, right? And that's where the sales happen. So, but it's more wider at the top. So you will, if you have 100,000 followers, it doesn't mean you will get 100,000 sales, right? So, therefore it's important to also keep increasing your community, because that will increase the chance of you having sales, right?
Yeah. Thank you for answering that question.
One more thing I want to add about that. If you think about a radio ad or a billboard, you also can't really measure, right? Did I actually get sales because someone looked at that billboard, and as a result of that advertisement, did they buy, right? But at least with Instagram, there is some form of measurement, right? You can see how many people contact your business because they had a question about your products or wanted to know the price about something. At least you have that interaction, and that you can measure, right? And that's what I would look to increase more of those types of connections with your community.
I mean, what I took from it was that if social media, if it's something that your business has never gone into, it is something worth definitely checking into, because you're finding potential customers that you would not have found if you did not use social media. And I think that channel by itself should bear the fruits of its own labor, from that perspective. And
right?
I think that's why it's important.
Absolutely right. And as I mentioned earlier, Instagrammers are shoppers, and more importantly, they're foodies, right? And so they go there to discover new things. Like, actually, ever since I came to Indonesia about 6-7 years ago, I've always used Instagram to shop for food as well. Actually, whenever I joined a catering company, I went to Instagram. I didn't go to Google, right? I went to Instagram, and I found catering companies there. When it comes to desserts or basically I love seafood, so I often look for seafood items on Instagram, right? So I'm literally shopping on seafood. I'm literally looking for products to buy on Instagram, right? So that's, by not being on Instagram, you're potentially leaving a lot of money on the table and potential customers as well, right? Because Instagram has already done the work in getting more than 1 billion people on the platform, and most likely, your country will have Instagram users too. And so, by not having one, you're actually missing out on an opportunity.
question, I think the next question is quite an interesting one for those who do get here. It's a good question to ask, I think. So after we have had a great number of followers on our custom cake page, how do we utilize the followers on that account to capture the same on our commercial brands?
So can you, you kind of cut out there, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so it's a second question from one of our viewers.
Yeah.
The question
Oh, you froze again.
states that
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, now I can.
Yeah. So the first question was with regards to utilizing Instagram while having two brands, which is the wedding cake brand and the commercial brand.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up question to that would be was if I already have a great number of followers on my cake brand, how do I utilize that followers that are on my cake brand and try to capture them on my other brand, which is the commercial side?
Oh, okay, well, you can use your Instagram story highlights, right? Because the beauty of the story highlights is that it stays on your feed, right?
Yeah.
So I would use that to inform people that, hey, if you are getting married or if you're a caterer, we also have a wedding arm of our cake brand, right? So that's one way. You can use the stories again, right? So stories get a lot of views, and you can utilize that as well to say that, hey, by the way, we have another Instagram account specific to weddings, but you could also use Instagram ads, right? And if you have a little bit of budget, you can target wedding caterers, or you can target people who are getting married, because you can Instagram has a feature, right? So what you can actually, Facebook has a feature where it says that if you are engaged with somebody, right? So when you're engaged with somebody, that's a status update, right? And Instagram and Facebook is connected, right? So you can basically target people who are engaged, right, in your area or in your city, because most likely those people are interested in buying a wedding cake, right? Since they're going to get married soon. So that's one way. You can also, if you want to do it organically and you don't want to pay, then you can basically follow other wedding accounts, right? Like a bright spot and other wedding accounts where they're having conversations, and join the conversation. So look for questions where people ask about wedding cakes, right? When they have a question. And again, when it comes to having conversation, it doesn't mean like, hey, go follow my account, right? No, when they have a question, answer it properly. And when they answer, they will see your Instagram name, right? So if it has wedding cake in your Instagram handle name, they'll see, not only did this person help me with my question, but they also have a wedding Instagram account, right? And then sometimes what you see is that they'll click on it, right? So again, look for conversations on Instagram that are about wedding cakes, right? In your city or in your area, and join those conversations and help people out, add value, right? Be helpful and kind of say, and by the way, yeah, we also have a wedding cake business, right? So should you need anything, right? So just don't do this. Don't do the whole spammy behavior and just, here's a link. Yeah, you have a wedding cake question. Here's my link and go buy. Right? No, try and have that conversation first, because social media is kind of, think of it as if you're in a networking event, right? When you meet someone for the first time, you don't go, hey, here's my name card. If you need a wedding cake, come buy from me, right? You don't do that in a networking event, right? Usually you get to know each other, you add value, you talk to each other first, right? Before you start selling. So apply the same method, right? So look for conversations that are about wedding cake or weddings, and try and join those conversations. Try and join those conversations. Yes, that takes some time and effort. But yeah, that is social media, right? It's about dialogue, right? It's about finding the right conversations that matter to your business.
the the next question I have is so one of our viewers has a few IG accounts
Yeah,
with different products.
with
How
different
can
products.
one efficiently maximize the reach of all IG accounts?
You can use, there are services like social media management platforms and tools that you can use. Um, and things like Hootsuite, um, or yeah, so Hootsuite is basically a dashboard where you can manage several of your social media accounts. Not only Instagram, but you can also manage your Facebook, your LinkedIn page, all from one dashboard, right? Um, so that way you're only using one dashboard rather than logging into three or all five of your Instagram accounts manually, right? Yes,
Mm.
there is a fee, but it's relatively affordable, right? It's $20 a month or $30 a month, um, and yes, and the reason why there's a payment involved is because it's going to provide you convenience, right? Because the last thing you want to do is spend so much time and spend all day on Instagram managing all three accounts, right? You want to make it easy for yourself. Yeah, obviously time is money, right? You need to make your social media activities as smooth and as efficient as possible. So I would look into some kind of a social media management platform that will allow you to manage all your platforms from one dashboard. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's jump on to our next question. This one's a little bit interesting, and Arfred, I think you would really like it a lot. It's about
Yeah.
management. It's
Okay.
management. How do you sort a social media calendar? Uh, and how do you sort a social media calendar to experiment and work with the post stories
Yeah.
that your customer likes?
Yeah, yeah. This is actually one of the first things I learned. One of my first jobs was as a social media manager myself, almost 10 years, more than 10 years ago, actually. And how you manage a content calendar, yeah. So what we do is you have to think of your content in terms of pillars or buckets, right? So content buckets. So imagine if you have four content buckets. So let's use the cake shop example again, right? So one content bucket or content theme could be about, let's say, videos that show how your cake is made, right? So that's one content bucket, showing how your cake is made. Another content bucket could be about highlighting your staff, right? Showing that you have a lot of expertise, pastry chef expertise, and cake decorating expertise. That could be one bucket. So a bucket, yeah, being that content theme that you promote, and then another bucket could be promotional posts, right? That promotions in terms of discounts or other campaigns or promotions that you have. And then a fourth bucket could be user-generated content, right? So it could be content where you feature pictures that have been taken in your cake shop by your customers, right? So those are four content buckets or four content themes. And usually what we do is we trial those content buckets for, let's say, a month or two, and then you'll be able to see, okay, which content theme or bucket got the most engagement and got the most or delivered a lot of traffic to our website, right? Again, it depends on what your end goal is. Which one got the most engagement, which one got the most traffic. And then from there, you use those numbers to see, okay, hey, I noticed that the videos about how our cakes are made get a lot of engagement, but the user-generated content, they didn't get a lot of engagement, right? So then that already shows you um, which content theme performed better than the other, right? So then what you do is you pull the content theme that's least performing, that didn't do as well, and you change it with another content theme, right? And then you experiment again. So it's quite normal that within a year you may rotate several content themes, um, and after a while, what you notice as well is that the first content theme that did really well may only do well for 3 months. And then people get bored, right? And they want something new. So you may notice that over time, a content theme that does really well in the beginning may reduce when it comes to engagement, right? So that's why it's very important that you consistently renew ideas when it comes to content that you want to
Mm.
promote, right, and put on your Instagram.
Yeah. 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 And a good follow-up question to that, I think, would be if in the early conversation you mentioned that you should not repeat hashtags. Maybe you can clarify to our viewers what that means. Does that mean that every post should have a different hashtag, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would. No, see, you see, the thing is that nobody really knows, like how many, like say for example, if I post the same hashtag 10 times, is Instagram gonna notice? The algorithm, it will be different for different people, right? But yeah, we generally do use sort of similar hashtags, but then because each post is different, so we naturally also have hashtags that describe the post itself, right? So that is already different from the last group, the last set of hashtags, right? So I would I wouldn't use the same 30 hashtags for the next 10 posts or the next 20 posts. I would always make a little bit different. Um, don't tempt the Instagram gods, when it comes to hashtags. So don't always use the same ones, right? So yeah, I would actually make it a little different. And think about it: when you're creating posts, remember you also need to have hashtags that describe that post, right? And naturally, you're not always going to have the same post, right? So let's say one post is chocolate cake, yeah, then you also need to make sure you have some chocolate cake hashtags, hashtag related hashtags. And then if another post is about vanilla cake, yeah, then you need to have vanilla cake, right? You don't use the same chocolate cake for the vanilla cake hashtag, right? So naturally, that will already be different.
Yeah. I think those are appropriate points to note. I think if that was the question that you answered. I think a quick yes or no answer for one of our viewers would be: is it advisable to register as a business account on Instagram?
Yeah, if you're a business, for sure, right? Because you get the extra analytics. You can also have more variety when it comes to the contact button, right? So when they can call you or WhatsApp you or direct message you or email you. Um, and because obviously, if you are using a regular account, the content button is not available, right? So as a business, naturally, people will want to contact you. So that is there's more flexibility, and also in terms of insights, right? You'll get better business insights to show which posts are performing best, the growth of your account, right? And a lot of those analytics are only available under a business account. Yeah.
There's a good question that came in about rehashtagging actually. The question actually says, if you have previously posted without your hashtags, can you just go in and then put the hashtags on the comments? Should you do that, or should you maybe remove the comments and then
Oh,
repost it again?
oh wow, that's a very specific question. The honest answer is that I don't actually know that because I've never done that. but um, but marketing team, please keep a note of that question, and I will get an answer for you for that. Yeah, I've never come across that, and that's something. Yeah, it's a good one. I want to know that too. But we will. What we'll do is in our follow-up email, we'll have any unanswered questions, and including this one, we will have an answer to that. Yeah, that one I have to look into because it's very specific, right? But what I do know is that usually Instagram, it's most effective within a few hours after posting, right? So once you post, if your post gets a lot of engagement within the first hour, then it shows the algorithm that, okay, yeah, that's a post that we need to feature more towards more people, right? Um, but yeah, then that I have to check, right? If let's say if you only add the hashtags the next day or the after that initial peak of engagement is already over, does that still work, right? That's a good one. I have to find out, but I will get that answer to you.
Yes, we'll definitely get that answer to you, of course. The next question also to carry on onto this would be, so you said that it is advisable to put your menu on the IG highlights. The follow-up question to that was that how do we increase human interaction if we were to place our menu on the IG highlights?
Okay. um, so yes, it is advisable to put your menu because I'll say one thing is that often since I'm a foodie and I'm a shopper on Instagram, I often don't like that I have to click on another link to visit the menu, right? So yes, you should definitely have the menu. To increase the visibility of that particular post or IG story is that IG story, remember, are only 24 hours. The highlights will stay, but you can always use the IG stories on a regular basis to inform people that, hey, don't forget to check out our new menu in our highlights, right? So inform that way. And another way is just to do, there's no reason why you can't have an actual post in your feed um, to promote that. And then also in your bio, right? That's also an obvious place where you can say, "Hey, menu in the in the IG story highlights," right? So that way, if you put it in the bio, it's always there. It's always visible when someone visits your account and reads the bio, right? So those are three things. So the thing is with IG stories, it's not like I'll do one IG story and then that's it. No, you have to do it regularly, right? Because remember, it's only 24 hours, right? So constant reminders, and then it will also inform the newer followers in your account, right? Who maybe don't know, right, that the menu is there. So you want to continuously do that, and also inform the remind the old followers and also inform the newer followers. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Arfit. I think we have a suggestion from one of our viewers, maybe perhaps for our next webinar to talk more on promotions and online content to gain more followers.
Yeah.
Maybe something we could address
Sure.
in a follow-up webinar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for the input. Yeah, that's possible.
Follow on to our next question. How do we deal with complaints that come to our comment box?
Yeah. Oh man, I can tell you, I've dealt with a lot of customers. When I was a social media manager myself, I had a lot of restaurant customers, and they were so scared of negative comments, right? And then when I was running a cake shop myself, I also hated the negative comments. Like, oh my gosh, I was afraid of them, right? Um, yeah. So how you deal with them? Well, the first thing what you shouldn't do is ignore them, right? Which I see a lot of businesses do, right? So don't ignore, right? Um, and because think about it, if you are complaining, if something as bad has happened to you, right, service-wise or product-wise, if you ignore them, then it's like, hey, you wouldn't ignore someone that comes into your store, right, and complains. So therefore, you can't do it. You shouldn't ignore on Instagram. Usually, what we try and do, what I suggest is first you always have to address. Okay, I'm sorry, or apologize, empathize with their situation, and sympathize and acknowledge that you've heard their complaint. That's the first thing. Now, what you don't want to try and don't solve the complaint in the comment section. You always want to direct the complaint offline, like to a phone call or email, or to the direct messages, right? Because this is complaints are personal, right? You don't it's like your dirty laundry. You don't want to hang your dirty laundry for everyone to see, right? And the same goes for complaints. Actually, complaints is a whole other webinar, actually. But just briefly, try and direct the conversation offline so someone calls them and can deal with the complaint personally. Because that will also show it will show the customer that you take them seriously, and also by saying in the comments, once you've acknowledged their complaint, and ask for their phone or ask to DM the phone number or to contact your customer service, at least it shows onlookers, people who are reading the complaint, they'll see, the brand actually commented, they acknowledged them, and they offered to solve the problem through a phone call or through an email, right? So at least onlookers can see that they're not just ignoring them, right? So it's always important that whenever there's a complaint, there's a lot of eyes on that particular complaint. So make sure you are doing something to fix it, right? But again, try and move that complaint off the comment section and into a more private space. Preferably, I like phone calls over direct messaging, because sometimes what they do, if you don't handle the complaint properly, they'll screenshot your direct messages, and then sometimes they'll put it on their IG stories, or they'll put it on their own Instagram account. Look how badly they answered my complaint, right? So therefore, phone call is better, and it's direct human interaction, right? Sometimes with writing, things can be misinterpreted, right, or misunderstood. So therefore, phone call is always that's my preferable way to handle a complaint, right? Because it goes direct to the source, right, and it doesn't leave any misinterpretation issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay, we'll jump into our last, perhaps one or two questions because of time. But fear not, because all the questions that you have posted on the Q&A box will be answered on email.
Yeah.
Just in the interest of time, we just have to answer. But I've filtered one of the questions which I think will be relevant to our topic today, which is of course Instagram and the type of content that you should post, and what is more attractive, or what is it that you think will get more attention to post? Would it be a photo or a video of a product?
Okay, there's two answers to this question. One is that you have to try, right? And see which one does better, right? But I will say this, is that nowadays people seem to prefer video content over picture content. You know that saying, a picture could speak, what is it, 1,000 words? Something like that, right? There's a saying that goes like that. But a video will speak 1,000,000 words, right? Because in a space of 1 minute, you can tell a whole story, right? And a picture can't do the same, right? There has been an increase in video content, and so yeah, if I could make videos all the time, I would. But obviously, making videos can be more time consuming, right? And they don't have to be, but they can be. But yeah, I do like video, because that is what a lot of consumers prefer now. And also you can convey your message a lot clearer and a lot better in a video. Yeah. But again, you need to try it, right? You need to compare, like your picture posts as opposed to your video posts, right? And it also depends what it is that you're trying to say in the post, right? Sometimes, let's say if you're featuring one of your chefs, right? This is our head chef, right? Yeah, then maybe a video will work better, right? I do notice that in some countries they don't like reading a lot, so take that in consideration as well. But yeah, there seems to be definitely an increase in preferring video content. But yeah, just keep in mind, especially if you're doing highly stylized videos, that's going to take a lot of time, right? But if you're taking a video just with your phone, yeah, then that's an easier way to create simple videos, but still deliver your message, right?
And last question for everybody, and I think very relevant as well, so that everybody gets an example of what you've been trying to share with everybody today. Can you give an example of brands on Instagram that you think have good traffic, marketing, engagement, and so on? I would share with them Tulip, no?
Yeah, that's one brand.
Yeah, I'll share with them Tulip.
but I'm assuming you mean a food service brand, right? Like
yeah, I'm sure a food service brand or a product that has gone through engagement on Instagram and that has gained good traction for them and engagement.
Oh man, there's so many, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many. I think you know what I'll do is I will include this answer in the email as well, and I'll select some of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
And so that you can get a large example list as well. Yeah.
Give everybody homework, do their research, take a look.
Yeah, but I'll include some of my favorite ones, which where I believe that these are Instagram accounts that are doing it really well,
Yeah.
and these are ones you should follow as well for inspiration. Yeah, yeah. So I'll do that. Maybe one more question then, and since that question will be
Yeah,
answered in the
yeah,
email.
yeah, of course. So I guess another question would be to do with brand logo. Does the
Yes.
brand logo design on your social media platform help or matter in increasing curiosity for your potential followers or customers?
Yeah. Interesting question. Yeah, look, I mean, yes, I mean, I think if you are an established business, yes, then I would put a logo on there, right? Because it's
Yeah.
one of the first things that they see, right? Um, and if you're an established business with, say, 4 or 5 outlets, then having a picture of your face may not be as conducive, right? And when it comes to a business, because then it's like, okay, are you a business or are you a person, right? And people want to know who they're dealing with, right? So that's
Mm,
where a logo can benefit, right?
yeah.
And also if it as a food service business, you want to establish that credibility very early on, right? That you are an established business. There's credibility there. There's trust, and yeah, and a logo does help you do that, right? But the logo surely isn't the only thing. I would
Yeah.
also have your website links in there. Using things like Linktree to show your e-commerce or your marketplaces.
Yeah.
That also helps to establish your credibility as a business, and also, of course, your bio description, right? If you have more than one location, then obviously include that. So I think, yeah, the logo does help, but I think I would look more of when someone visits your Instagram account, they're going to look at your logo, they're going to look at your link, they're going to look at your IG story highlights, they're going to read your bio, right? And then they're probably going to look over your posts, right, to see who you are. And so I think if you put a picture of your face, for example, or a picture of a cup or a cake, people then wonder, hey, is that a business, or who are they, right? And I think a logo does establish that kind of business credibility, right? So I would have that logo in there. Yeah. Are you there, Stephen?
That concludes our Q&A
Oh, yeah,
session.
okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Okay. You're
Hi,
back.
sorry. All right, I think that concludes our Q&A session. We hope that you received a lot of valuable information from Arfid. Also, for all the attendees on this webinar, you can expect to receive an email with the recordings of this webinar as well as the winner's announcement. So keep an eye on that email. And before we close this webinar, I'd like to inform you about our upcoming webinars. Next week, Tuesday, May the 4th, we will be hosting Secrets of Baking the Perfect Cookie, a Tulip Guide webinar led by our brand ambassador, Chef Louis Tanuhadi. We can learn about the art of cookie making and baking techniques to help make the perfect cookie for your household or food business needs. This webinar will be held at 2 to 4 p.m. Jakarta time and 3 to 5 p.m. Philippine time. Finally, I want to give our final thank you to everyone who has attended and participated in this webinar. We hope to see you again in our upcoming webinars, and do not forget to follow us on Instagram at Tulip Chocolate Asia and Facebook Tulip Chocolate Asia to get the latest updates. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Really enjoyed the questions. Have a good day.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.